It's showtime.
Our brethren are already in the field. Why stand we here idle? What is it the gentlemen wish? What would they have? Is life so dear, or peace so sweet? Has to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God.
I know not to cost others. But as for me,
Give me liberty, or give me death.
Make a move and the bunny gets it.
I said, put the bunny back in the box. Why couldn't you put the bunny back in the box?
Psychically, I'm very well endowed.
I wanna know what you're thinking. There are some things you can't hide. I wanna know what you're feeling. Tell me what's on your mind.
Hey there, this is Cooper from Telepathic Bunny Comics. Welcome to the rabbit hole. It's Monday, and the bunny ears are on. Welcome to the call-in show. Got a caveat before we go too much further. That's just in case certain people show up wanting to be on the show. I make sure I'm indemnified from anybody's sour grapes. You know, I reserve the right for certain people to never be on my show, and I don't apologize for that. Anyway, but for people who are reasonable, people who don't have egos the size that you can see from orbit, who are going to take over the show and be an asshole the whole entire time. If you're not that, then you are welcome on the show to be on the panel. Anyway, I've got the links out there if anybody wants to come on. Got one guy in the chat already, Mr. Creators Outlet Nerds. I don't know who he's talking about. He must be talking about somebody else. No, it's weird. Anyway, happy Monday and love from Frosty. Spending time with the kiddos this afternoon, but I'm definitely going to be catching this one on the replay. All right, appreciate it, man. Actually, the last 2 episodes of the call-in show, I was really just riffing, man. I got in a pocket there a couple times. The asshole rant, I need to pop that one out, and the one before that about I forgot what it was. It was a really cool rant on that one. Got Wookie Fever. What's up there, man? Good to see you, dude. Out where it's hot. He's fur ball and it's out where it's hot. So you do the math. He's probably miserable right now. When I say hot, I'm talking about 104 in the shade, maybe. Pretty good, pretty hot in the desert out there. Anyway, around here, it's not just the heat, it's the humidity or the humility, depending on who you are. Anyway, I don't really have anything to review today. I didn't get anything in over the weekend to review. And so let me pull one off the stack here. Oh. Here we go. Hybrids. This is the fourth part 3 of the Killing Fields arc. This one had the guy who did the cover on this one went on to do is now working for Marvel. I think his name is Neko Diaz, I think. Anyway, let me see right quick. Neto Diaz. And Tiasa Diaz, I guess that's his girlfriend or whatever. Very, very hot. Currently it's 110. Yeah, I'll keep my little white butt, out here where it's just humid. Anyway, this is part of the Hybrids universe, part of the Hybrids. I got the first arc. The first arc was Trash Man arc. And this is the conclusion of the second arc. I'm hoping to get the collected edition as soon as it gets those printed up. But this is Trash Man. That's the cover, man. That dude, he's a tank. He never goes down. So to see him on the cover getting hurt, that's a heck of a cover right there. And you look inside of it, and it gets pretty bad in there. So there you go. Right. This is part of the Hybrid Sons of Gods universe. Luke Stone. This is actually my favorite, pretty much my favorite book, period, on the planet. I really hope he finds the time to get back to it, even though he's running a website these days. But just a great, awesome comic series. This at the end of this one, there's like a I think a little bit of a sneak peek of another comic that didn't come out yet. And this is part of Arrow universe. Arrow's got a lot of good comics. Go to arrow.com and check it out. Most everything's on FMC. Have fun, my comic. And if you haven't picked up the Hybrids series, I highly recommend it. It is an amazing series. Great characters. And he's got some real interesting storylines. And one villain that somebody may or may not have created for him that I hope he uses one of these days. All right. I'll admit it. It's mine. Anyway. So, yeah, check out Fun My Comic just in general. It's just the best little comic book shop on the net. And get over there while it's still small, because we've got some pretty big names that are circling right now. And once they land, I think Indiegogo is going to see us going to hear us coming. I'm just gonna say, hear them coming. FMC. I'm not paid by FMC. I just love the website. Anyway, I didn't want to go without at least one recommendation. But yeah, if you haven't got the Hybrids series, check it out. Hybrids, Sons of the Gods. It's on FMC. I think the whole thing. Either that or LukeStoneStudios.com. I think everything's on there too. But if you want a good team up book in the kind of the, remember when team up books were there's like a feeling of family about them, where everybody not only they didn't always get along, but they loved each other. That's the book. That book really exemplifies that better than most anything else I've gotten. Indy Who? Yep. Indy Who? Yeah, it's gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Anyway, Pink and Green. Where you need to worry because Black and Gold is coming. We're coming. We're coming for you. Anyway, well, I feel a need to play this, so I'm going to play this right quick. Here you go.
Why doesn't the hero reveal himself and tell us your true name? You do have a name. My name is Gladiator. How dare you show your back to me? Slave, you remove your helmet and tell me your name. My name is Fun My Comic, and I represent all the campaigns you shadow banned and kicked off your website. Huh? Creators that just wanted to fund, that wanted to be left alone. And we will build a website that is going to bury you all. Oh crap.
I need to get back to making those. I'm very proud of that one. Anyway, so yeah, check out Fun My Comic. Check out what's on the shelves at Fun My Comic. It's always a fun stroll. I probably back too much over there as it is, but Magnificent Bastards 2, my friend James Rock's comic is over there. Not only that, but you can check out that first comic, which is amazing. It's an amazing comic, but you can get that one for free. Okay, it's a free comic PDF, and he's going to have the whole entire thing redrawn by the artist he's got now. But so he's offering it for free, and it's just amazingly written, well put together book. Can't recommend it high enough. Anyway, so today's topic: jealousy or critique. Okay, now there seems to be this attitude that I'm seeing, and it's been around for a while, but it's gotten really egregious here lately. And that is, it's all about power dynamics, okay? Now, power dynamics is a Marxist ideology. And that means that certain people have more opportunity, i.e. they have more power, therefore they're the oppressor. And if you don't have as much power as they do, you are the oppressed, okay? Now, the perception of it, okay? you got Amanda Stenberg right now, a rich girl who's spent her whole entire life having everything handed to her, doing who's the star of the Acolyte series, and she did a dance video the other day or whatever, bad mouthing Star Wars fans, calling them all a bunch of racist and misogynist, and that she's some kind of oppressed minority, and this girl has never lived with desire, with want, and yet she's identifying as an oppressed minority. And she's got the whole entire $5 billion worth of Disney behind her, and yet she's an oppressed minority. Okay, and so power dynamics break down after a certain point. Once you start slapping labels on everybody, and so the problem with that is how, when somebody is more successful than you are and have way more resources than you are, is your critique of them automatically sour grapes or jealousy? Is your critique of them automatically you being petty, or you being in some way, shape, or form underhanded, or jealous, just sheer jealousy? Okay. And is there a limit of to who you can criticize? And if you criticize this person, it automatically makes it something negative. Okay. Now, we're seeing this right now. Those power dynamics, if somebody's supposedly part of an oppressed group, even if they've got the majority of like the positions in America, even though if they've got if they control a lot of the wealth and a lot of the power, a lot of the politics, and multiple cities around America, and they're still in some way, shape, or form, you have to look at them as the oppressed. Even though somebody like me in Appalachia here, I live in poverty, and people that don't have 2 cents to rub together. But somehow, because of this arbitrary characteristic that they have, they're still an oppressor to a multimillionaire in a penthouse, who controls a multi-million-dollar corporation. And so, i.e., because of this arbitrary characteristics, they're always going to be the oppressed, and you're always going to be the oppressor. See how stupid that is? Okay, so what's that got to do with our current conversation? Well, it has a lot to do with the fact that certain individuals in pop culture, in the mainstream, and in the indie space, consider themselves as people that you cannot critique. If you do, it's somehow jealousy, or it's you being a bad person. Okay. And so what is that? What justifies an actual legitimate critique? And what is, you're more successful than me, and I want to take you down. And so I'm going to criticize everything you do. And we have both of them in our community right now. There's like people have taken sides. It's team sports at this point. And so, if you're on this side of the fence, you can't critique this person over here. But if you're on this side of the fence, you can't critique that person over here. But this person on the other side of the fence is open season. And not only that, but you've got to critique and criticize every stinking thing that they put out. And so in the conversation, it all gets lost. The legitimate conversation is missing. Okay, so this person, put this out a couple weeks later than they said they were. But this person over here was 3 years late. On your side, and this person was like a couple weeks late on this side, and you can, you're open season on this guy, but don't dare say this over here, and so it all gets mixed up in team sports, and if you say, well, I'm criticizing this person because of this, this, and this, they'll say, well, they're more successful than you, so it must be jealousy. And it all gets excused, and it all gets, it all gets like mixed up together, and dynamics in team sports, and it all gets, it all comes out like in the wash, and you don't quite know what you're looking at sometimes. And is there room for critique on both sides of every argument? Yes, there is. Everybody is open to critique. Nobody's perfect, i.e., everybody has blind spots. Everybody screws up in some way, shape, or form. I expect critique. I embrace a critique. I want people to say, call me out for stuff if I'm wrong. And if I evaluate what their criticism of me or critique of me, and I find it invalid, then I'll just I'll ignore it and keep moving. And so, but the problem is when you get team sports involved, then it gets lost. The whole entire reasoning behind critique gets lost. And the reasoning behind critique is to improve, is to let somebody know where they are, to give an evaluation of the art. Okay. You know what happens when you remove critique from the art process? You get Jackson Pollock. You get Hunter Biden. You get this guy over here that's selling $4 million paintings that look like crayon scribblings. That's what happens. Because if you take critique out of the evaluation, then there's no way to determine the quality of anything. And so anybody can just set their idea what's quality and what's not quality. If there are no standards, then you can't evaluate art. And art must be evaluated. All right, hold on a second. Bum, 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 bum. Nick X. Critique is started. It's moved on to something else nobody wants to talk about. Right. Yes, it has. Yes, it has. If you want to talk about it, Nick, I'll send you a link. But basically, the reason why art has to be evaluated, because art is an arbitrary thing, okay? And because art is arbitrary, which means that it has no concrete structure to it. It has, you can always tell a car is more powerful than another car because of horsepower, or because this car has a bigger engine or more torque or whatever. But because of that physical characteristic, you can determine which car is going to be faster. Okay. And because you can visually look at the car, you can determine, like, that, wow, that Corvette's way more prettier than that, Fiat over there, and because there's like some things are universal. You can make that evaluation. Now with art, we know what is quality, and we know what's not quality, and so by basically making by taking, like, adding in team sports and personal feelings and butt hurt and agenda that has nothing to do with art evaluation, then what gets lost is the fact, is it good or not? And there's good stuff and bad stuff in everybody, in everything, in every corner. But if you can't, this person's protected and you can't say anything bad about them, and that you say stuff bad about this one over here, and you know this one, this is bad, and this is not bad, but you're critiquing this as worse than this, then you're disingenuous. And the whole entire thing, the whole entire reasoning is moot. Okay? There are things that are determining as to what is good or not. With art, it's easy. You look at it and you can tell what's good art and what's bad art. You know, I mean, go to Tumblr sometime, you know, and take a look at what they're calling good art over there. And you know, it's like, no. And the reason why quality has fallen off so much in the mainstream is because they've taken evaluation out of it. They no longer are allowed to say, this is good and this is not good. That's how you get the acolyte. Because all during the process, that movie was, that series was in production for 4 years. That's been in production for 4 years. $180 million was spent on that. It was reshot multiple times. And sometime during that whole entire thing, nobody said, you know what, maybe witches having immaculate conception is not a good thing. You know, that completely breaks the lore. And reevaluate, you know, maybe that's not a good thing. And maybe that's not a good idea. And, well, the reason why that happens in all those 4 years of production and $180 million spent, nobody said, this is good, that's bad. To fix this, change that. We need to head towards this direction here. Why? Because the person in charge of it was somebody from that you couldn't evaluate. And that's how you get what you got. And that's how Mandel Stenberg thinks she can badmouth the fans and do this dance video or whatever she did, supposedly in 3 days, even though it had high production costs and you know, multiple camera angles, and and it was shot in somewhere that she couldn't get to in 3 days. You know, somehow she had this ready to go, you know, after 3 days. But that's how she thinks she's free to do that. That's how all these press are bad-mouthing the fans and saying, you know, they're the reason why everything sucks. And yet, even the people who have no skin in the game, have no dog in the fight, are now ratioing and giving bad scores and bad reviews. Penguin Zero, you know, the biggest YouTuber on the planet right now, gave a bad evaluation for Disney, and yet they didn't go after him. Why? Because he's too big, and they can't critique him, right? So it's the same thing. Sure, man. Let me send a link right quick. Love to have you on. Get your brain, pick your brain about this. Hold on a second. Bum, 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 bum. This is the call-in show, kids. These things happen sometimes. Let's see here. Let me go ahead and there it is. Mr. Come on. Nick. Yeah, stick with me, guys. A little bit while I get this link sent here. There it is. All right, there he is. And alrighty, done. Yeah, biggest YouTuber right now, right? Yep. I'm gonna say doubt. X for doubt. Yeah. Anyway, but so what happens is because you can't evaluate what's good and what's not good, then when things come out and these people get blindsided by the reality of it, then because nobody has told them this is actually really bad. And so when people call it bad, they immediately think, well, all these people I trust said it was good, i.e., it must be good. Therefore, you're attacking me. Or look at this big number of backers I've got. All these people can't be wrong, can they? I.e., you're wrong when you say that there's something wrong with the product I'm putting out. Anyway, I can usually tell if it's jealousy or an actual critique. Yeah. Well, there's some things that you got to look for. There's some things that separate jealousy from a critique. A genuine critique has specificity. In other words, okay, there's problems, and this is why. It's a breakdown of what's wrong with this. The other day, Vaughn from Vaughn's Haunted Castle, who's been fighting, running battle with some people. He's been saying this book is bad, and they were like, well, if you think it's bad, then how is it bad? And so he did a breakdown video the other day of exactly what's wrong with this book and how you can fix it. Actually rewrote it, and said this will fix it. And I watched this video, and he was pretty much dead on with everything he suggested. And but the thing about it is they're probably not going to hear him because he's been like spouting and attacking, and some of his arguments were disingenuous, And so because he has been doing this for a while and being combative, even though he gave a really good critique the other day, and step by step, this is what's wrong, this is how you fix it, which was very helpful for other writers that are going to watch that. And I applaud him for doing it. He's a friend of mine. He was on the show a couple weeks back. But because of the discourse that he's had with people, it's they're not going to, it's not going to repair anything. They're not going to say, hey, maybe we should take his advice. Nope, they're just going to say, oh, you're a hater. I can just walk away from everything you say because you're a hater, right? And so critique has to come from a place that's looking for them to improve. Critique has to come from a place of neutrality. And that's why, even though what he said was very helpful, it's probably not going to be accepted. And it's just basically peeing in the wind because it didn't come from a place of neutrality. And first of all, specificity. Second, neutrality. And thirdly, it has to come from a place of perspective. Okay? In other words, you have to have the solutions. And you have to show competence that you're somebody that has that, have to like establish the fact that you have that knowledge. And the people are going to take critique from somebody who shows that they have the knowledge. I don't think people take the critique that I put out with the spirit it's intended always, because I have yet to put out a book. Yeah, I'm working on it, and I'm hoping when it comes out that it will be my bona fide. People will read that and say, okay, maybe this guy knows what he's talking about. Maybe then, maybe I can see some improvements. Maybe my critiques will have more weight. I've kind of been bad-mouthing Snowman, because it's a beautiful book. It's absolutely gorgeous. But in 3 years of production, maybe over 3 years of production, nobody edited that book. Nobody story edited that book. Nobody copyrighted that book. And because of it, it remains a really beautiful book that's ultimately dispensable. And but because I haven't put out a book, and I'm talking to somebody who's had mainstream, pedigree, nobody's going to take my word for it. And the nature of it. Alrighty, welcome back to the show, Mr. Nick Axe.
Hey, what's going on? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, yep, I can hear you, sir.
Well, awesome. Great.
Yeah. So,
I haven't heard the last few minutes just because I had to reboot my computer.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, I was saying that critique has to come from a place of a specificity, of neutrality, and basically from a place of knowledge, established knowledge. And if he doesn't have those three things, then people are probably not going to take it very seriously. Would you agree with that?
Well, I mean, whether or not people take it seriously is kind of irrelevant.
Okay.
And there's a caveat to that. I mean, we want to be, I guess you could say, like a little bit sophisticated with how we think about these things, and we want to understand the various categories which we're operating into. And we want to know when we're conflating categories, and we want to know when we've accidentally stepped out of one category and into another. So the idea of like whether or not somebody whether it's well received or something like that, it's almost like the lemmings problem, right?
Right.
It doesn't matter whether or not the majority of people agree or disagree. The question is whether or not it's valid, or more specifically, let's go into the proper category, whether or not it's true. And of course, true is both sound and valid.
Right.
So validity deals with the metaphysical, and soundness deals with the physical.
Right.
So when someone offers a critique, I would agree with you that specificity is required. That's what I'm trying to do here. Be specific, have categories, don't break those categories, operate within the category properly, understand when we've stepped out of one or another, and so on. So I would agree with specificity. What was your second one?
Neutrality.
Neutrality is irrelevant. Okay. Now, that's a hot topic. And if I could have a moment before, people's emotions kind of flare up, which is probably already too late, right? But
no, that's okay. I'm there for it, dude. I'm there for it.
That's great. I think that we have to. I don't particularly like the phrase "have an open mind." I do think we need to have some discernment, and I think discernment requires pause.
Right.
So, this idea of neutrality in a critique, I think, helps. So there is a caveat. I don't want to. I don't want to suggest that neutrality has no value. In fact, I'm going to bring, I guess you could say, like a kind of neutrality, or I'm going to attempt to try to bring in, a certain level of neutrality to the things that I'm talking about here. Some of it's going to be a critique. It's going to be a critique of like, I don't really like the labels, and I don't necessarily understand the edges of the labels. So hopefully people will forgive me, but like CG slums, or like any of the other kind of like individuals within CG who feel either they are the original or rejected or slums, or that sort of group or subset of groups and so on. I'm going to offer some critique to them. I'm going to offer some critique to EVS perhaps, and obviously July and so on. In order to do that, however, hopefully people are going to believe that I'm being neutral, and that does affect the way it is received. But it doesn't matter, because it goes back to this idea of truth. Now, truth, you can have righteous indignation. Like you can be, anger is a very valid emotion.
Right.
Okay. If you see evil in the world, you are supposed to get angry about it. You are, and that anger is supposed to motivate you to take action, not vengeful action, but to take action.
Right.
These emotions are there for a purpose. So even if you've, let's say, read something or experienced artwork that moves you in some way, and I won't dictate which way it moves you, it could move you in any which way.
Right.
Those feelings, on one sense, are valid in the domain or within the category of emotions, but it isn't valid in terms of the critique.
Right.
Here's where I would say that critique is. There's been this, another hot button issue that's been thrown out there is this idea of whether or not you can have bad faith critique.
Right.
Now, EVS has said, no, you can't. It's either valid or it isn't. I agree with him. But here's an example of bad faith critique, which supports EVS's argument.
Okay.
Before I get into that, back up for a second. For us to test our ideas, we need to be honest with ourselves, honest with each other.
Yeah.
Again, categories, distinctions, and so on. So one of the issues is what is the rigor by which we are measuring any of these things?
Right.
And what I'm seeing is a lot of emotion. And I'm not saying that emotion isn't, it doesn't have its place, but it isn't necessarily useful. How your campaign might be doing, how EVS's campaign might be doing, and so on, and the various emotions that you feel about that. I mean, remember the first day that you launched your campaign, the nerves that were at play, all these different things. We can't deny these things. These things are real. I mean, for the individual, they are definitely real.
Yeah.
But we need to be looking at this validity. We would need to be looking at this bad faith, good faith critique, and we need to be asking certain questions, and we need a certain rigor to any of our analysis. So one of the ways in which we can do this is through sort of logical proposition and also logical positioning. That is to say, we can take something and we can look at its obverse. We can say something, we can take an argument, we can look at its converse. And sometimes that will show us or reveal to us a certain fault or frailty or even outright contradiction within any given argument. So let's test for a moment whether or not EVS's comments about good faith, bad faith critique are in fact true. Like what he's saying is it's either valid or it isn't. Well, I would say this. I'm going to bring in your argument of specificity.
Okay.
Specificity isn't validity. Specificity is soundness. Soundness. That is to say, that is a reflection of the material world. That is, that it is sound in that the facts are true. Facts are things that have nothing at all to do with, let's say, like, a validity in the sense of truth, although it does, provide help for us to understand what is true and what is false. But soundness is about the material world and whether or not the facts are exactly as they are described. On the other side is validity. Validity is whether or not your operation. Let's kind of get a little bit. Let's move away from traditional and classical thinking, and let's move into, like, let's say, modernistic thinking. Whether or not the operation is valid, whether or not the operation actually holds truth. So what that means is you have one side, which is the argument, and you have the other side, which is the facts, soundness and validity.
Yeah.
So when you say that it needs specificity, I have to agree, because I would like to, preferably, when I can, operate within truth. So soundness, that is to say specificity, has to be there for critique to actually hold.
Right.
It can't be vague. This is, I believe, what you're trying to say, and I agree with you completely. On the other hand is this idea of validity. You notice neither of these things have anything at all to do with jealousy, has anything to do with, any sort of like, position of success, has nothing to do. And this is some of the things that you were saying at the top of your show as well, is that it doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what status you have, doesn't matter how much money you make, it doesn't matter what kind of metric of success you're going to measure anything by, and all that stuff is irrelevant. The only thing that's relevant, and this is what EVS is saying, the only thing that's relevant is soundness and validity. So then the question then, as we said, we're talking about rigor. Let's look at the converse of that. Well, what would then be a bad faith, quote, argument? Well, it would be one that is not sound,
right,
or one that is not valid, or one that is both not sound and not valid.
Right.
that would be bad faith. So what would be an example of that bad faith critique? When EVS told everybody that his comic was good, that July's comic was good.
Right.
That is the bad faith critique. Your mom putting your artwork on the fridge with a magnet and saying, my son, daughter, is the most brilliant artist you've ever seen.
Right.
That is a bad faith critique.
And then the child that has absolutely no ounce of talent decides that they're going to be an artist.
And we have had a swath of that in the modern education, the current education system.
Yeah.
Okay. Where everybody gets a reward. Everybody's perfect. Everybody is flawless. You know, it's all about your self-esteem and everything else.
Right.
Right. And so this is where it's like, I keep hearing these arguments and I don't see the proper, as I said at the opening, I'm not seeing the proper categories. I'm not seeing a proper rigor.
Right.
I'm not seeing a proper understanding of sort of how people are coming to their conclusions.
Right.
You know, like, and this might go to worldview. This might go to just a lack of understanding in terms of what rigor is. This might go to the permeability of mind and category, that mind tends to have a difficulty with holding categories, you know, as concrete things and not conflating, you know, categories and so on. I'm not sure exactly where it is. I'm sure for each person, it's a slightly different problem, but I'm seeing a lot of different, let's say, problems with reason playing out in a lot of the discussions, because they're not necessarily solid dialogue or discussions. A lot of it just seems to be a lot of emotional kind of vitriol. So
team sports.
Team sports, right? And I would say this. I would say also, like, you know, I would agree with the team sports thing. There's no sense in, like, how can you, like, part of the impartiality that you were talking about before, which we all try. I mean, I shouldn't say we all try to strive to. I am not a team sports guy.
Right.
I try to be on the side of truth, but I admit I don't always know what that is.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, this is where I'm like, and the discussion that I was saying, and I'm wondering if maybe you took me correctly or not. But when I said that, what did I type in my chat? It was something to the effect of, you know, it started off with critique, but it's went into this whole other discussion that nobody really wants to talk about. What I see happening, you know, with EVS in July is that it's moved on from critique and it's moved into fraud.
Right.
Okay. And it is a very sneaky kind of way. Again, this goes back to the idea of categories, and this goes back to even avoidance of categories. When you don't name people, or when you don't label the things of which you're arguing against or for, you have what is known as plausible deniability.
Right.
So any argument that's put forward that doesn't have the specificity that you're talking about is specious on its face.
Yeah.
So when, let's say, July is putting out these blind items, he's not saying anybody's name. He's not basically saying, like, he's any of this stuff, but he's speaking fraudulently, allegedly. It has to be either called out or not called out. But how can you call it out without specificity? Right. It's a very slick technique that politicians use. So what is EVS doing? Do I agree with EVS? I don't know if I agree with EVS necessarily, but I understand his motivation. Now, some would say it's jealousy.
Right.
I'm not so certain. I'm also not convinced it's not jealousy.
Right.
They say, this is a quote, it's not mine, but like the mark of a smart man is someone who can hold, is an individual who can
hold more than two thoughts in a head. Yeah.
Without necessarily committing to one.
Right.
You know, either, any. And this is where, like, you know, Schrodinger's conviction, if you want to call it that way, is that you're not going to see me necessarily have a conviction about July or EVS necessarily. They're men.
Right.
They're their own men, you know, and who am I And I have my own comic. I have my own work, you know, that I have to worry about. And unless somebody, let's say, launches an attack, or I don't even know if I want to call it an attack, an argument, a claim.
Yeah.
I like these terms better than an attack. But if someone launches a claim or whatever against me, my character, my work, my whatever, you know, hopefully I would be allowed to respond. If I see fraud, or what I believe is fraud, you know, the real question is, am I allowed to talk about it? Am I allowed to, you know, go on stream, you know, go full blast and start talking about that stuff? Is it our responsibility to point out fraud? Well, that's a worldview thing.
Yeah.
Clearly, EVS's worldview is that, yes, he needs to necessarily call this out, probably for several motivations.
Right.
Right. One motivation is that fraud, and him being a Christian. It's his duty as a Christian to call out any fraud.
Right.
It is, you know, to let a lie live. No. Now, do I agree with him? That's irrelevant. I'm talking about what EVS thinks, or what he believes, or whatever, or what he may think or may believe. I can't know the man's mind.
Right.
Right. So if he sees a fraud, then is he, you know, motivated to say something? Well, perhaps his worldview would suggest that, yes, he needs to say something. The other issue is that this is his industry.
Right.
Right. This is the industry of choice. This is the industry of which he is a veteran. I don't know if anyone would challenge that. One of which he's found
a lot of success,
a tremendous amount of success. Most would probably agree with that too. So it is perhaps respect to suggest that this individual knows something about the industry, and so that his critique, well, let's put it this way: how many people who are trying to make their comic successful would be willing to pay money for his advice regarding industry, regarding art, regarding any of this stuff? Probably many. Who knows how much that they would be willing to pay per session with.
Well, what launched him into the stratosphere from a small channel to one that really became the cornerstone of this side of the market was his how-to breakdowns of how to get started in the industry. You know, and specifically, like he did a video about what in particular what tools you need, and went to an art store and bought them, and that pretty much that was his first million clicker, you know, and but because he's seen as somebody that has you know, legitimacy in the industry and a pedigree, and so and in a lot of ways everybody that's getting these six-figure campaigns that have been formerly in the mainstream are pretty much living off of that, you know, living off of that prestige for having that shared glow of being having been a household name in mainstream books, and so when I come out and say that Snowman by Matt Martin via All Caps Comics, while a extraordinarily brilliant drawn book, is rudimentary story-wise, almost to nursery school extent, you know. And so I'm like, if you want art, if you like art, this is a beautiful art book, but it's supposed to be a comic, you know. And so, but me making that, when I make that critique, there's several things that are working against me. First of all, EVS. If EVS feels like I'm hurting his bottom line, then he can bring the weight of his whole entire simp force down on me, you know. And so I have that to worry about, if I'm worried about that. Secondly, because Matt Martin worked in the mainstream, he has that legitimacy that I don't have. Well, who are you? Who are you to say anything about him? He worked in the mainstream. He's friends with EVS. You know, he works at All Caps. You know, who are you to, you know, you that book sold over 6 figures in 2 weeks. So who are you to dare critique it? And so I got that working against me. And thirdly, another reason why my critique is probably not going to have any effect to his bottom line is because people's expectations of the writing are down here. And so a rudimentary story, but the art is incredible, is totally okay with them.
I don't know if you've noticed, but all 3 of your statements are all external factors.
Mm-hmm.
They have absolutely nothing to do with you.
Exactly. Right.
And more specifically, or more importantly, it has nothing at all to do with the claim or argument.
Is it good or not? Is it good or not? It has nothing to do with this. Is it good or not?
What you've done is you've talked about EVS
mm-hmm.
and the quote influence power, however you want to perceive that, label it. You're looking at that as though his mind is a weak mind,
mm-hmm.
one that is prone to jealousy and vindictiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The second
there is a history there.
Perhaps, I don't know. Then there's the second argument, which was that you're what was it that you're or no that
the prestige of the prestige of the
artist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we know validity and or soundness is irrespective of any position.
Right.
A claim is always stands alone.
Exactly.
Right? It doesn't have, whoever spoke it is irrelevant. It's
mm-hmm.
the claim itself and whether or not it is sound and valid.
Right.
Okay. So now what we've done is we've disparaged, or we've called into question
mm-hmm.
once again an external factor, which is the individual with the skill and the talent,
mm-hmm.
who for some reason we're going to give more weight to their sound and valid argument.
Right.
Now, that sounds like it's a contradiction of what I said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't, because you would hope that someone with experience would have more sound and valid arguments because of the experience that they've accumulated. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we blindly listen to every single thing that an expert says. If we want to refer them to experts, expert is a very loaded term.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. And then your third critique, your third externality was what was it again? It was
the fact that who am I to dare critique somebody?
Again, this goes
with my person.
Yeah, well, this goes to worldview and whether or not you care enough about the topic to bring to your claim a sound
mm-hmm.
and valid argument. That is to say that you care enough to bring rigor to whatever it is that you're going to put forward as a claim, a critique, an argument, whatever. Once again, it has nothing. Your station isn't valid. It doesn't help your argument. It doesn't hurt your argument. It is a null point, right? So if we can't stay within these categories, if we're going to conflate certain things, like if we're going to suggest that EVS is a jealous monster, one who is prone to vindictiveness and so on, which perhaps he is, perhaps he isn't, it's, as I said, irrespective of your claim. If your
mm-hmm.
critique of the story of Snowman is valid, even the jealous man has to contend, even the vindictive man has to contend with that soundness
mm-hmm.
and validity of the argument that you're putting forward. Now, I'm not saying they will. I'm saying they have to. Right. I know that seems contradictory again, but the thing is, I'm talking about necessity, the idea of it is necessary that truth will always win out. You can only run away from truth for so long before.
Well, there's also a quality that once you put that critique out there, people have the ability to take your critique and look at the work with your critique in mind and say, is this guy full of shit or not? You know, and that's the main reason why I keep doing these things is even though I'm very well. I mean, I don't do it to people that I might hurt their bottom line. I mean, I'm not legitimately not going to hurt All Caps Comics sales at all. You know, they're a behemoth, and people back them because they're All Caps. They don't, you know, quality is not really added into that.
Untrue.
You know?
Untrue. The only reason why you can't is because you don't know how.
Ah, okay.
You know, in the marketing world, you know, if EVS is a 30-year veteran, I'm a 20 whatever year veteran, 20 plus year veteran of marketing. Right. Small guerrilla teams can definitely hurt an image of someone. Absolutely, absolutely. Right. It's just that you don't know how, or you're not willing to play that game.
Right.
Right. So you shouldn't discount yourself that easily. There's a comment in here. Jealousy is very easy to spot nowadays. I would say it isn't. Okay. You can't. For me, and let me put the critique forward, and I hopefully Hojo at complete respect, but I think that is an arrogant position to put forward. Okay. It's also not charitable. Okay. And so this goes to worldview again. You know, my worldview is one where I feel like perhaps we should be more charitable. And, you know, perhaps there's other things at play. Before I go to jealousy, there might be other things at play. Right. So, you know, once again, whether or not you can hold several ideas in your mind at the same time without necessarily committing to any of them, I think this is the mark of you know, someone who's attempting to understand as best as they can, you know, the truth of the situation. I think it is very easy to label someone jealous, or, you know, as being jealous. I think it's very easy to interpret jealousy. You know, especially if the supposed critique or the trash cast or whatever is in their mind relentless. Right. But I have to ask the question. The question has to be asked. How relentless are the plausible, deniable, fraudulent statements, allegedly, that are being made on a daily basis? I've seen it. I've seen it. Yeah. For me to say that EVS is motivated entirely by jealousy or something like that, I can't get there. No. I could say that there's a percentage that might be a little bit jealous, like a little bit angry, or a little bit like not necessarily jealous, but maybe there's a certain sort of like injustice.
Well, I mean, I can see his point. I mean, I could definitely see a point that, you know, as much work as he's put into this space, and somebody kind of swooping in with these numbers that don't seem like earned. And I can understand that, and I can see that point of view. But, you know, how much does that color the critique? You know, that's another. This is exactly why I don't watch or listen to any of the reviews of my stuff. I have people that I will give me honest critique and feedback. I think what I mean is when I see my name brought up in Discord, I wasn't even invited to talk about a character of mine being a ripoff of something I had never heard of until 10 years ago. Right. I have no idea like what those are, but yes, if someone is going to make a claim against you, you should have the right to obviously counter the argument. That's otherwise you can, out of necessity, just simply discount the other person's statement. Right. Does that work in marketing and in public relations / the public perception? No, not necessarily. So you have to take to your own channel, and you have to, make your own statements and so on. Well, one thing about critique, though, is it is neutral in a lot of ways. I mean, if it's like what EVS said, if it is a valid critique and you apply it to it, and it turns out to be legitimate, then you can take it. But if it's not a valid critique, and you evaluate the work based on it, and you find it invalid, and then it's basically it's in a way it's almost removed from politics, removed from team sports, removed from anything. The bottom line is this a valid critique? You know, depending on even if the source is somebody who you know is hostile, is it a valid critique, and can you use it?
Yeah, and once again, I would say let's not forget the soundness. You know, this is where I think EVS sort of slipped up. I mean, some people might think it's minor. Maybe people think it's pedantic. I do not think it's pedantic, but sound and valid are both necessary in any critique or in any claim. So, you know, I agree with EVS on there. Even if he was 100% jealous,
right,
100% angry, 100% emotional, pick your emotion. There's plenty of flavors of emotion out there. Pick it and add 100% and dial it to 11. Right. It's irrelevant if the critique is sound and valid. The only time that it is bad faith critique is when it's your mom putting your picture on the fridge and telling you that it's all roses and, you know, honey. That's not a valid critique. That is, you know, that is. People are
that's
like,
this is
the irony. That is team sports. And this is the irony that EVS finds himself in. And this is where he has, in fact, damaged, in my opinion, his reputation to some degree. I think he's trying to remedy that. You know, some people will be forgiving, some people won't. But the point is that he gave his bad faith critique when he told everybody that the book was good.
Which
that's
is why
the bad faith critique. That's the irony.
Which is why I haven't listened to his critique since, you know.
I listen to the critique based off of whether or not it's sound and valid.
Right.
An individual can make a mistake. I'd like to be, if I can be, more forgiving and more charitable.
Right.
I don't have anything against EVS. I don't have anything against you. I don't have anything against, you know, all I'm trying to do is I'm trying to have an even hand.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I don't have anything against EVS too. I'm really just talking about the environment in which we find ourselves in.
Well, I think the environment that we find ourselves is our fault.
Yeah, it is.
Totally. I think sorry, I'm going to be I'm going to push back a little bit and I fully expect for people to, you know, offer critique for to me as well. But I think that this is a moral question. I think what's happening is, and I've seen some of the conversations that are happening in back channels and so on. And what I'm picking up from people is the very thing that you're you know, jealousy or critique is the watchword of today's show. And I would say, yes, this is what I'm seeing. What I'm seeing is that a lot of people, and again, I come from a marketing background. I just happen to be able to draw at the same time. Okay. How good
by the way.
Artist is up in the air. But you know, the marketing part, at least I can, you know, that's a certain claim that I wish I'd never done, but yes, I have done, and I've done it at a high level. That is to say that I did it for publicly traded companies, and I was in charge for managing the perception of their shareholders.
Right.
That's a very sensitive, very difficult, very precarious place to be when shares and share price and share value are at, you know, that's at jeopardy. You know, that when you start making certain claims, certain statements publicly and so on. Okay. So that being said, I see a moral weakness within, let's say, CG Slums, within like just Comicsgate in general. You know, and it has devolved. I think we all feel it, like the fighting, the infighting, the teams, the this, that, the whatever. Is EVS in part guilty of it? Yes, absolutely. You know, is Matt Barr? Sure. Again, I like Matt Barr. I actually enjoy, you know, some of the things he says, some of his rhetoric. You know, like we're all falling prey to our own faults, our own immorality. You know, we're unable to rein it in. We're making judgment calls. We're pretending to know the hearts and minds of other men. We're getting involved in what we believe other men should be doing or not doing.
Right.
You know, this is a very strange place for me. It is not something that you know, separate from this little speech I'm giving here. It's not something that I'm really I jump into. I will, if I'm a friend with you,
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I see that you may have misstepped in terms of your, you know, what I believe that you think you want to be. Like let's say you want to put yourself forward as a fair individual, or this individual or that individual. If I see that my friend has done something like that in private, I will talk to them and I will say, hey, you know what, I think that, you know, maybe this is a misstep, or maybe this is, you know, like whatever. And sometimes I get pretty vociferous about it, just as I'm doing now. You know, I can be a fairly intense person, but I just don't see that in the public sphere. I mean, how could it be? You're just exposing every raw nerve, and you're saying all the things that are on your mind or all the things that are on your heart, and you don't have the courage to shut the fuck up and actually approach the individuals, you know, in DMs or whatever. Now, in the case of Hojo, it seems like, you know, he's been denied. That's not cool, right? And you know, that's an injustice, and I can definitely sympathize with that. But overall, you know, if we have issues with people or whatever, we should be reaching out to them individually. You know, we shouldn't be putting them on public display like this. I mean, for a couple of reasons, the least of which is the idea that we want to have like CG and the if you want to call it a movement, you know, I'm not really sure what it is anymore today, but whatever it is, we want to have some sort of cohesion, ideally. You know, so maybe not airing out our laundry all the time is necessarily the greatest thing. I don't see us like kind of properly critiquing each other. Let me put myself on the chopping block for all of you. If what I'm saying here is either not sound or not valid, by all means, you know, reach out and let's talk about it.
Yeah.
That's the first move all of us should be making. Every single last one of us. If we want strength in whatever it is we are trying to do here, there has to be someone who puts themselves out first and says, I will be the first to be on the chopping block. I will be the first to be critiqued. I will be the first to put forward ideas that I'm opening up to, you know, the public and so on. But we're not doing that. Instead, in back channels and everything else, what I'm seeing is arguing. What I'm seeing is like these little snipes. Just sniping. And often I'm seeing these sort of discussions where it's like things are being said, but they'd never say it in public. You know, perhaps it's because of what you've commented before, is that they believe that EVS or whatever other boogeyman is going to descend upon them and essentially annihilate their entire existence and ostracize them from CG. I don't see that happening. I gotta tell you, man, like, if there's EVS is talented at managing his image to a degree, but you really have to start believing that everybody that likes EVS are a bunch of idiots, just like the whole like Ripetard nonsense. Calling these people Ripetards, or calling, I don't know what the EVS equivalent is, you know, people who follow EVS's, you know, cult, the Ripetard cult, and, you know, all that stuff. That language doesn't help anything. It doesn't help anybody. Okay. And I'm not saying that feuds and battles and things like that aren't going to happen. They will. But my goodness, can we have some honor? Can my sword please be, can the sharpness of my sword please be the argument I put forward? You know, and of course not, because what we're going for clicks, we're going for, you know, emotion, we're going for all these different things. And so,
well,
you know,
I always kind of like boil it down to, you know, brass tacks, and that is it good? And you know, one thing that I'm very mindful of is I will, if somebody comes behind me and looks at the thing that I said and looks at the work that I pushed or that I encouraged people to pick up, then that's a responsibility on me, you know, And I've given evaluations of things that other people have like torn up, and but because I found it good and I enjoyed it, I was being legitimate with me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so at the end of the day, critique is not about you, it's not about me, it's not about EVS, it's not about Ripa. Critique is it good? When you pick it up, it's about the craft. And I think if we all started taking that stance and just saying, it's like, okay, I like this guy over here, I like his stuff, I support him and I back his stuff. But this book, it's like, I like RJ of the Fourth Age, your boss and your friend.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about RJ in a bit here, but yeah, go on.
But that last book had this one story in it that was completely, totally, and I'm like, why didn't somebody tell him that this was a bad idea? I mean, so, and I said that on Steve, but I was like, this is good. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed that. But this, what the hell, and, but, and that's somebody that I know he'd be open to hearing that, but I came from a legitimate place because I was encouraging people to get his book, but I'm like, this confused me, but you might like it. But this confused me, but if you just take it on the face of it, let me go ahead and get this comment. It's been here a little while. Not every smart ass talking animal's a Rocket Raccoon. It just shows they never read my book and go secondhand stuff. They haven't produced anything on their own. And he's talking about a talking cat, and somebody was like saying it was like Rocket Raccoon. Trust me, his talking cat Samuel is nothing like Rocket Raccoon, so that was completely stupid.
And again, this is one of those comments where you can like dismiss it like out of hand. I mean, and the reason for that is the first thing is whether or not the argument is valid. Let's put that away for a second. This is where soundness wins the day.
Right.
Soundness is simply says, well, we've got how many talking animals and how many Disney movies and how many cartoons and how many that doesn't wash.
How many fables over decades? Or
Aesop, just go back all the way. So the on its face, a claim like that is specious, and this is where if you want to enter into rhetoric of humor and so on, which I'm open to. You can, to a degree, ridicule the individual for, putting forward what is a disingenuous, claim. That is to say, the claim is fraudulent on its face. I can't even get to whether or not it's a good faith critique because the statement itself is nonsensical.
Right.
I don't even have to get to faith. It's nonsensical.
Right.
Just based off of the lack of soundness. This is where this stuff saves your ass all the time. And this is where humor and jokes are written. Jokes are written in the play of sound and valid. Logic is very much a part of humor. And breaking that logic, doing things where you're taking logic and you're conflating two different planes that are unexpected, and so on. This is where thinking in these terms really helps you out and keeps yourself even check with keeps your own sort of delusions and the way that we all lie to ourselves and everything else. I mean, that's a way to check against that stuff as well. But going back to the RJ thing, RJ is there's a couple things that should be said here. First of all, where to begin? The first thing is this. This is with love that I'm going to push this out to anybody who cares to listen to this. Okay. That I find within like CG slums or, whatever else, share this around, again, this isn't an attack or anything like that, but here's a problem. You just critiqued RJ. Thumbs up. You just critiqued RJ for, a particular story or whatever that didn't play, and, that's valid. That's fair. I mean, if something didn't play for you and you can put forward that's obviously fair.
Right.
What I'm seeing is the same thing in almost every project in almost every campaign landing page.
Yeah.
I'm seeing people who don't understand what log lines are. I'm seeing people who don't understand how to create tension. You can ask John from John's Logbox how much I've tried to beat in his head tension, all with love. You know, beating in his head is, you know, we launch insults at each other all the time. So he'll take that. Don't think that that's an attack against John or anything.
No. Even if it was, it's John. You know,
it's John. Yeah, who cares? Just kick him around. But I got to say this, guys. Like, from marketing standpoint, you guys are. Let me say this very succinctly. You are in the business of creating tension.
Mm-hmm.
That is your business. Whether you're doing whether you're doing the thumbnail on your YouTube video, whether it's the title on your YouTube video, whether it's the description in the YouTube video, whether it's the first 10 seconds of your YouTube video, or every single moment after that, all the way to the end, to get them to watch right to the end. I don't care if it's YouTube. I don't care if it's a title. I don't care if it's your landing page. And guys, it's not even happening in your comics. Many of you guys don't even know how to create tension there, and that's your job. That's the thing you actually want to do.
Yeah.
So this is where I'm like, guys, you can fault EVS for all sorts of things, but he knows how to create tension. What do you think Trashcast is? The fact that July is offering up fraud, allegedly, in mass quantities, by which EVS is going to take that and just basically spin it into joke after joke after joke after joke after joke after joke after joke.
Right.
You can hate them. You can hate July. You can hate EVS all you want, but there's something you have to accept.
Yeah.
You're not creating tension. Forget EVS. Forget July.
Right.
What are you doing about your channel, your comic, to create the tension that brings people to watch you?
Yeah.
How many people are watching you? That's the problem. It feels dirty. You feel slimy because you're trying to create this tension. You're trying to create, and you're like, no, dude, this is the game. You signed up for this. Now, in your comic, it's fictional. In your comic, it's, but this is why we have the word kayfabe. There's a question here that Wookie Fever asked, which is, Nick, how much of this particular thing, July and EVS, is legit or fake? Again, can you hold several ideas in your mind without necessarily accepting any of them?
Right.
I have many times thought that possible.
The answer is yes. The answer is yes. Yeah.
I don't know.
It's both legit and it's fake. At the same time, simultaneously, the cat is both dead and alive. Just depending,
He's definitely, like, EVS is definitely making hay. Okay, he's definitely making hay, but it's the part that makes me wonder whether or not it's legit. Is because of a lot of the things that are being said by July are so demonstrably ridiculous that I don't even have to watch EVS's show.
Right.
I cannot believe some of the claims, always with plausible deniability, blind items. Okay. And plausible deniability, guess what, guys? That's the whole public sector.
Yeah.
You want to write copy, you want to put out press releases, you want to try to manage the perception of angry shareholders. Plausible deniability is a skill. It's a skill of which you can get paid obscene amounts of money for. Whether you're a speechwriter, it doesn't matter, man. And so Eric July employing plausible deniability, which gives him the a lateral to say patently ridiculous things, and the only person that's holding him to account so far is EVS to any degree that really hits on anything. Now, can EVS hold him to account? Absolutely not. The only thing that EVS can do is point it out. That's all he can do. Now, we can hate him for it. We can love him for it. I don't particularly care.
Right.
It's none of my business. EVS's super chats are none of my business. His flash sales and how much money he makes is none of my business. Okay. And my business is my business. My business is trying to make RJ happy with the art that I'm producing, eventually producing a book of my own and getting that launched. And that's my business.
Right.
This idea that we have to chase after EVS and start dictating how he should or should not behave. I gotta tell you guys, I don't understand it. I have to ask the question. I'm asking the question. I'm genuinely asking the question. What is your motivation?
Yeah.
Are you going to say that it's the same motivation as EVS going after July? Okay. What is that? Because you a moment ago said it was jealousy. I didn't necessarily agree. I also didn't discount it. But you said it was jealousy. So what you're saying is that you're jealous. Because if you're doing it for the same reasons that EVS is doing it to July, I got to tell you, you're stuck in a loop.
Yeah.
This is a classic exploit that a guy like me in marketing would take advantage of.
Right.
If my competitor in another corporation had said something as patently ridiculous as that, I would take him to town and I would clean their clock. I would be writing press releases and all this other stuff that would point out the idiocy, stupidity, hypocrisy, whatever it is,
right?
That the other corporation did. I would be exploiting that. I don't do that kind of work anymore because I find it vile. But okay, this is the thing that I'm trying to get across, guys. Is like you got to be careful in terms of like how you're comporting yourself.
Right.
What is it that you want to put forward? I personally want to put forward this idea that like RJ, okay, that we conduct ourselves. We try to be honorable. We try to hold the truth as the paramount thing, not the team sports, not the blood sports, not the and I'm not saying you can't get your nose bloody, and I'm not saying you can't join a team, and I'm not saying okay, but you have to ask the question, what are the values the team holds in this particular case? Why am I willing to bleed in the blood sports, et cetera, et cetera? That goes to worldview, and that goes to sort of hopefully a higher cause or a principle by which you hold yourself. But that's how I think we should be thinking about this stuff.
Right.
We shouldn't be going after a man because he's making X number of dollars on super chats. We think he's jealous and he's just basically, shitting on a black man's, success because he's pseudo racist or whatever the heck other comments that I keep seeing popping up all the time. That's not a way to conduct your business, and that's not a way to live your life, and that's definitely not a way for us to lead.
No.
Do we want to lead?
Well, what kills me?
Go ahead. Sorry.
What kills me right now is we got a wide open opportunity to supplant the mainstream.
Well, we also have a head start on other sort of movements and so on. Way
ahead, and all this is doing right now is just making a chase or tail, and so I honestly think if it keeps going like this, we're just gonna have to basically walk away from both of them and chart our own course, because there's a wide open opportunity here. And I keep saying this to people, that because of the abdication of the mainstream to allow a ecosystem where critique is not allowed, then quality is not the end result of that. That's not the end phenomenon of that. The end phenomenon of that is bullshit crap. And they're like saying, look at this shiny turd, look how shiny this turd is, and ignore the flies, ignore the smell, a consumed product, right? And people are like, well, that sucks, even though the press is telling me this is good, I know it's not good, I know, and suddenly the cognitive dissonance is starting to crack. And they're like, oh, wait a second, this person over here, or these people over here said this was crap like 4 or 5 years ago, and I didn't listen to them because the press was telling me it wasn't. And because we were legitimate in our critique, and critique is its own entity, the truth is its own entity, then people are starting to say, okay, well, they're full of crap, because that's bad. And I can see that's bad. And and they said it was bad. And so
you're also suggesting that we need to move away from both CG and mainstream.
Well, I'm saying that if they keep chasing their own tail and this opportunity is wide open here, then we're gonna have to start charting our own course. And
I would say this. There's a few things that I would say to that idea. I am not seeing the kind of unity that would be required to do that, nor am I seeing the leadership that would be required to do that.
I'm not either. Yeah.
I'm just gonna say it straight as I see it, and it's only from my vantage point. And if someone wants to bring me to date with some different data, I'm more than open to looking at that, because I am a very curious individual. But guys, I'm not seeing it. Like what I'm seeing is you could give somebody advice and and it could be a good advice, it could be a good critique, it could be good whatever, and I'm seeing it dismissed just as Eric has dismissed.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm seeing there's a few other things that I'm seeing, and again, this is a general critique. It doesn't apply to everybody. You can look into your own work, your own mind, and your own heart, and ask the question whether or not it applies to you. But what I'm seeing is a lack of understanding of many different fundamental things that are required for someone to write, illustrate, and market their product, or in this case, comic. I am not seeing the necessary skills to bring it to that level.
Right.
I'm seeing a lot of projects that are not good enough to get noticed by anybody. I'm seeing a lot of incestuous sort of, cross marketing, cross promotion, where each of us are buying each other's books, but I'm not necessarily seeing any of the new blood. The only new blood, and I'm going to argue this, and people, and again, you can challenge me if you want to, but I'm looking at the data and I understand a little bit about marketing online. But EVS is bringing in new blood. Now, there's a lot of critique out there. Is it the kind of blood that we want? I'm here to say it doesn't matter. 4%, 4%, 4%, 4%, 4%. Get that through your heads. Whenever there is a new blood that comes in, 4% buys, and then 4% remains, and so on and so on and so on. Okay. Right. You might be able to get these numbers higher, but if you have a cold call, that is to say, if you've got a cold lead and they come in, out of every 100, you're going to get 4 people who buy. It doesn't matter what you're selling. Now, in some cases, as I said, you can increase that number. And in some cases, it can actually be closer to 2% if you're really terrible at your job. But typically, 4% is the conversion rate. Now, let's take a look at some truths, some sound, valid arguments. EVS does his trash cast. Let's pull ourselves out of how we feel about that. Okay, right. We're not going to be sitting here. We're not going to evaluate it on any sort of emotional level whatsoever. Okay, we're going to stop with the whole like epithets. We're going to stop with the whole like thinking that I know exactly what's going to going on. We're going to look at the data. When the man is bringing in anywhere between 25 to 3,500 people for every single trash cast, I have to ask you some questions. No, not necessarily you, but I'm just, rhetorical questions. Is
the royal we? Yeah,
the royal we. Yeah, I have to ask, guys, do you really think that the same 2,500 people are watching from day 1 to day 15 to day 30 to day 60? Do you really think that the same? Could you imagine how effective your marketing would have to be? How cultish, how airtight your whole pack. It would have to be everybody in prison. They'd have to be all in prison, because there's no way you don't have both attrition and you don't have new people coming in, new blood coming in. You always have churn. Always. So let me put it in different terms. The 2,500 people that you see that he regularly brings in on day 1, on day 30, those are not the same. There's been a percentage of churn.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know exactly what that percentage is. I'm going to say 4%, but I don't know exactly what that percentage is, but there's always churn.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's 1,000 people, that means that there's 40 people that are coming in and out every single episode.
Right.
Every single episode. Some of them might forget for a few days, for a few weeks and come back. That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But there's always churn happening. There is no way that you, I, or anyone else within our sphere could delude ourselves into thinking that the same 2,500 people are watching on day 1, on day 30, on day 60, on day 90. It doesn't work that way. It's never worked that way in the whole history of marketing, the whole history of online marketing and data collection. It's never worked like that. There's always churn. So what does that mean? That means that our arguments, whoever's making them, okay,
mm-hmm.
that he's stagnant, or that he's not, growing, or that this isn't good for the, whatever, it's all irrelevant. You could also say, oh, but those are sales only for him. I say shame on you. I say shame on you because you're honestly going to look me in the eye and say that this individual who is marketing for Comicsgate isn't pulling people in, and you're unable to attract them from what he's pulled in.
Mm-hmm.
You're really going to tell me that you can't figure out a way to actually take whatever his churn is, the new blood that's coming in every single day, because there's always
mm-hmm.
somebody new. Okay. You're telling me that you can't figure out a way. I can tell you right now the easiest way to do it. A $10 super chat that says, hey guys, if you're new to Comicsgate, welcome. Check out my damn comic. It's here. And EVS will read that super chat out.
Mm-hmm.
That is an expensive way to do it.
Yeah.
But that is definitely a way to take advantage of the churn that we all know. Now we have to accept the fact. Because there's no way I'm going to let anybody not accept the fact that there is churn there. There is new blood coming in, and there's people leaving. Now, if that number was drastically falling, then I would be like, okay, guys, you know what? He's doing something wrong. He's got to pivot. But to understand, or to notice that he's had essentially a regular, a viewership.
Mm-hmm.
Every single trash cast, we have to understand that we have to take ourselves out of the equation. We have to take our emotions out of this. We have to take all of the last 7 years of Comicsgate, all of the emotions, like everything that's ever happened. We have to take that out of this equation, and we have to start looking at this objectively. And we have to say, okay, there is a whale, and he's bringing in a lot of, what is that? Is it does it start with a C? What's that fish that stick moray eels or whatever, like sticks to large whales and sharks and whatever? Okay,
barnacle.
No, I'm thinking about the fish that feed off the underbelly of the. You know what I'm talking about? It's not a moray eel. It's a anyway. It's not krill. It's something else. But anyway, you get my point. Is that this individual, a whale, is bringing in a certain number of people, and he's selling to these people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you can see it. You can see that, like, in some of the super chats he's got, it says, hey, I'm new to Comicsgate. I just bought this, or I just got a membership, or I just, like, whatever it is. And you see these things, a good portion of his live streams actually show that there are people in there. If you read the comments and everything, that there are new people that are showing up. They're like, hey, I didn't even know this was a thing. Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of different comments I haven't collected in like forever. I'm really glad I found this, all that stuff. Your feelings about Trashcast are contextual.
Mm-hmm.
You've been here for 7 years. You haven't seen the success you want to see. Most of you guys, with love, are unable to create enough tension for people. You have to get people to care. Nobody cares about your dream.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Nobody cares that you have a dream of making a comic book. No one gives a shit. You have to think about them. They're the ones that you have to concern all of your messaging around. Like, think about it from what I said a moment ago about being a marketer for publicly traded companies. Okay.
Right.
If I marketed from like my dream of making a big paycheck, Hey, let's say I was doing insider trading and I wanted to manipulate. I'm a marketer. Like, what a great position if I started buying the stock that I was manipulating the perception of people on. That's a pretty dark place to be. Thankfully, I've never had a trading account because I find it immoral, but whatever. Okay. My point is that imagine if what I did was I started to manipulate people based off of my self-interest.
Right.
Okay. Well, my self-interest is that I want to make money. And my self-interest is that I have a dream of buying a yacht. My self-interest, and imagine if I started writing my rhetoric, my messaging with that. Like, a lot of these campaigns start off with, I have always had a dream of making a comic, or I've been thinking about this idea for 20 years, or like all this nonsense that's about them. And the person who's watching this or reading your platform, your landing page is going like, this has nothing to do with me. So what is it, and why do I care? Those are the two things that you have to answer. You have to put it right up front. This is a comic book, and you care because the story is incredible in this way, and you have to hook them. And once you hook them, you get them by the throat. You never let go. You never let go. How many of you guys out there are able to do that? So far, I'm not seeing very many. So far, I'm seeing a lot of people. As I said, it's an incestuous buying pool, mostly. I'm not saying entirely. There are definitely fans out there that are looking for, people. But again, if you take this the wrong way, you're going to think I'm an asshole. Maybe. But this is seriously with love, guys. Figure out how to create tension within every single phrase, every single sentence, every single paragraph. Figure out how to create that tension. Guys, you need to do that, and you're not doing it. And you're not pulling in using the skills of creating tension. You're a writer after all. You got like half of you guys, presumably, okay? Presumably half of you guys out there are writers. This is your jam. This is what you do best, supposedly. At least that's your claim. When you refer to yourself as a writer, what else did you think that meant? Especially if you're in the writing of fiction. You must necessarily create that tension. And so what I'm seeing is a lot of incestuous buying and everything else. And I'm not seeing this taking advantage of what Ethan is bringing in. You don't have to be on Ethan's channel. You can be in the chat. You don't have to be in Ethan's channel. You can be in the comments. You can be in his tweets. You can be all these different things of which you can do in order to create tension and so on. I'll say it this way. I did a series of tweets. You may have saw it. It was over a day or a day and a half. It was like writer tip, artist tip, like these sort of things. And if you look at those, go to my Twitter and look at those tweets. Find the, artist tip number 375. Like, it's all nonsense. But read my tweets. Look at where I'm creating tension. In every single tweet, there's some sort of tension that's being put there. Either I'm pitting artist against writer, I'm pitting writer against artist, I'm pitting writer against self. It's the classics, right? It's like man versus environment, okay?
Yeah.
So society, etc.
Right.
So this is the failure that I'm seeing, and this idea of like jealousy or critique or faith or any of this other stuff is just getting us caught up. Our attention, there's that word, tension is within attention. Okay. Our attention is going to like arguments in the back rooms about how I think it should be done, or this should be done, or that should be done, instead of getting to our work and actually learning our craft to a degree by which, more than 4%. Okay. That's where the difference comes in, is that you're talking about quality a moment ago. Well, the higher the quality, the greater the percentage converted.
Right.
You start at 4%, unless you're really terrible and you're at 2%, but you start at 4% and you work your way up. The only question now is, how many people are you bringing to your platform, to your landing page, to all that stuff?
Right.
That's it. Sorry, it's a total rant, but I'm just seeing this, and we need some kind of leadership. We need some kind of, I'm not saying that's me, but I'm saying we need some sort of leadership. We need some kind of like check on ourselves. And I'm not seeing that. What I'm seeing is a lot of people sort of like working each other up into a frenzy and validating one other's feelings.
Right.
And I don't like it, and I don't understand it, and I want it. I really love for it to stop, and I would love for us to just slow down, self-reflect, and start asking the question, okay, what if I turned my attention away from all this stuff that I'm butthurt about, and I started putting it towards my craft? I started putting it towards, all this. And if we had like meaningful critique circles, okay, if you're going to take this, right from your title, we've got the word critique here. Well, let's sell that idea right now. You want proper critique. You want to be operating within the proper categories. You want to have rigor to your claims. You want to have soundness. You want to have validity. And then you want to have poetry within your artwork, within your writing, within your dialogue, within your, not literal poetry, but you get my meaning. Art, it elevates to the level of transcendent and so on. Everybody, don't tell me which person in this in that might watch this really doesn't want to hit the transcendent level with their writing and with their art. Not a soul. Okay. No. Every last one of you want to do that. You think that it doesn't happen? You think it happens without rigor? Mm-mm. You think it happens with conflating categories or not even understanding the meaning or the necessity of category, or even the importance of the word necessity, that it is uncontestable. It necessarily must be that you understand categories. You don't conflate categories, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Sorry. I am definitely going on. I'm definitely being pedantic, and I'm being a bit condescending. And I apologize. I don't mean for it to be that way. It's just, it's my style. It's not like, but anyway, again, this comes down to what is it that we want and what are we doing to get there? Our attention is on the wrong things. We need to switch our attention elsewhere. Please save me. Take it away, Cooper. Save me from myself. Save me from being a jerk.
Well, I don't know. I just let you go. I just let you preach.
That's not wise. You're basically you're admitting that you're giving me rope to hang myself. That's unfair.
I'm creating tension.
Well, creating tension would be to fight with me, is to basically say, I think you're wrong on everything you said.
Well, you're fighting with the rest of the world. I don't really have to,
True. Just wind them up and let them go.
It's like, woo, ting, ting, anyway. Yeah. No, I honestly, at the end of the day, I think we just, I think this is part of maturity. I think none of us expected us to get this far. I think we're used to being the scrappy underdog, and eventually, the scrappy underdog gets adopted and has to become a house dog and has to get lose some of its scrappy ways and start being domesticated a little bit. And I think right now there's a fight between that scrappy impulse and the beckoning sophistication of being part of the bigger picture. And I think what we're going through right now, growing pains, and that I'm interested to see where we're going right now. I mean, I see FMC, Fund My Comic as being a extraordinarily step forward. I don't think people truly understand. There's a website that came from our group. That was basically created for our group, and it's legitimate, and it's backed up by legitimate technology, and it's been there over a year now, and it's closing in on $500,000 raised, and this came from one individual just deciding to do it. And
this is the theme. This is the theme, and you have to ask yourself the question: are you doing what Luke's doing? What are you doing other than, and I'm not saying that everybody is like, in back channels, saying, spouting venom or anything like that. I'm not saying that at all. I do see it from time to time, as we all do.
Well,
right. But yeah, like Luke.
Well, I saw Billy Tucci Billy Tucci's planning on doing something with him of She fame, and he's already got he's got a verbal commitment from EVS himself that
which we should hold him to.
Yep. And Mike Barron's already on there. Mike Barron considers that his home because he's been kicked off other websites, so much. And there's a few other people that Kelsey Shannon's first comic book is about to be ready to and he's going to bring it to Have Fun My Comic before he brings it anywhere else. And so we're talking about an inevitability here that people need to get out of their heads that, well, there's not been a 6-figure campaign on there yet, so IE is not legitimate. But at the same time, there hasn't been a whale that is capable of 6-figure campaigns on there yet.
Well, chicken and egg, right?
Chicken and egg. Right.
This is EVS worked however many years, 20 some odd years. When he started his YouTube channel, he had people who found him who were fans of him and so on. Yeah. And then Comicsgate and everything else. Okay, fine, fair. That all happened. The real thing here is like what I'm seeing is a lot of us, myself included. Okay, so I'm going to throw myself in this critique as well. We're all a little bit too individualistic, to a fault. Okay, we don't necessarily want to hear the other guy's advice or critique. Okay? Yeah, we say we do, but whether or not we actually like really measure it, and whether or not we have a methodology or a rigor by which we can measure it and evaluate it properly, and whether we can get out of the way of our own emotions to actually look at it with clear eyes. Right. I'm not sure how many of us can do that. I'm sure some of us can. Okay. And I'm sure we all like to think we're the one, but we have to kind of, self-evaluate. But what I'm seeing a lack of, and this is from a marketing perspective, remember everything that I'm saying here is from a marketing perspective. Even your story in your comic, I can put the marketing hat on and I can look at it from a marketing perspective. Okay. And then I can put the other hat on, the writing hat on, and I can look at it from the craft of writing. But there is a marketing component to even the story written. All right. Sidebar, the thing that comes to mind is was it David Wolf? Was that his name? He was the showrunner for like several shows, but one of them was it LA? No.
Dick Wolf.
Dick Wolf. That's it. Yeah. And what was his show called again? Why is it blanking on me?
It was Law and Order.
Law and Order. Yeah. Law and Order. Okay, so when he was in an interview and he was talking about how when he does a new show that he pitches to the studios, he usually does he has 6 episodes written. And the reason why is because from a marketing perspective, he wants to know whether or not there's a there. He wants to know if there's something actually of value there, that if it can do 6 episodes, chances are it can do 6 seasons.
Yeah.
That's a completely marketing perspective. Right. The craft of writing the scripts is definitely a part of that.
Considering the quality of the scripts. Considering the quality of the scripts, it's only a marketing perspective, I'll just say.
Well, yeah, he's looking at it as whether or not there's enough material. Material is a whole other term that's, writers use and so on, but whether or not there's enough material by which we can make 6 seasons, at least 6 seasons, because at that point 6 seasons meant you could get syndicated. But anyway, whether or not I could get 6 seasons out of it in 6 episodes, if I paid the money up front for 6 episodes written, then I could have a better idea whether or not I had a marketing juggernaut on my hands. The hope that I could actually get to syndication. So what's my point? My point here is that even from a marketing, you can put that marketing hat on and you can look at people's scripts and you can say whether or not this is even going to sell. Like, how many of you are looking at this like, oh, I've always loved this idea. This is this is the thing that I have to write and everything else. And it's like, is it though? Like, have you tested the waters? Have you put anything out there? Have you put like 2 concepts out there and said, hey guys, vote on which one do you think would be the best? Like, has any of that happened? Or is it just that I'm going to make it no matter what because it's my project and I have to? Okay, fine. Maybe that is your magnum opus, but maybe you should think about, putting together another project that might be more marketable, might be easier to market, might be easier to create tension with, build your name up, and then go for the harder thing that you took a little bit longer to write. Took a few years for you to actually develop your craft to a level where you can pull your magnum opus off. Can you even pull it off? Anyway, this would be helped tremendously with critique circles, of which I'm not sure we have any. I don't know how many people are actually. And I mean this in an official capacity. I mean this.
Well, I had one for a while, and a lot of great, incredible things came out of it before it hit a snag. But when it was at its best, it people were able to, throw things at the wall, see what sticks, and send it up the flagpole and see if it's either saluted or fired at. And because of that Crucible, that Kelson, we were able to create some amazing projects that came out of it. I'd name them off. You'd know some of them. And we called it a think tank. And I do think that we need circles like that. And you need to have a group of people whose opinion you trust, that you can say, okay, this is the idea. What do you think? And if they tell you, well, that's crap, it'd be the kind of people that you're like, okay, it must be crap, And that's extraordinary. Telling you what's not going to fly is just as important as telling you what will.
Well, and this goes for not just the script or the artwork, but it also goes for your messaging, your marketing, your brand, all of this stuff.
Right.
Your YouTube channel. Are you properly framing your YouTube channel? Do you know what framing is? Do you know how to frame? Do you know that you can create tension within the frame alone? Like any of this stuff that maybe you've heard of, but don't really grasp fully, or don't know how to employ in your own work or whatever. Right. That's the stuff that, a lot of these sort of circles and things could really help with craft. If we put our attention to that sort of thing, instead of, the other things that I've been seeing, I think that, when we said to some of the whales out there, hey, you're doing it wrong. Take a look at some of the successes that we've been having on a smaller scale. But if we feel that if you employed this, then we would have a leg to stand on. Right now, what I'm seeing is a lot of nipping at the heels. What I'm seeing is a lot of people who haven't reached.
You're saying more jealousy than you're saying critique.
Not necessarily jealousy. Not necessarily. Okay, there might be a component of that in there. It could very well be. What I'm seeing is that it could be a perceived injustice.
Right.
That there's an attunement problem. That you're not properly attuned to the things that matter and the things that are true, that are sound and valid. Right. This idea that EVS has to do anything for anybody has to stop.
Yeah, it needs to stop.
It has to die.
It needs to die.
The fact that like the idea that the idea that I would ever count on EVS for the success of my business, or any man. This has nothing to do with EVS.
He doesn't owe you anything.
EVS is not even a quotient in my thinking.
No.
Okay.
If he helps you, that's awesome and
great. If I can strike up a contract, a relationship, a quid pro quo, but that's the contract, the relationship, the quid pro quo. That's not EVS the man.
No.
The idea that I would somehow measure my business or that I would have my business rely upon another individual like that, another man like that. I can't get there, so you wouldn't hear me say, this is what I think EVS should do or whatever. You'd hear me critique things like just in general. Like one of the times that I was on your channel, I was saying that the trash cast stuff is the cheap heat.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. What that means is that at a certain point he needs to pivot.
Yeah,
that's all that means. Is that
I think I've seen signs that I've seen signs he already is, and
he might be.
I think he's kind of turning to doing legitimate draw streams and stuff like that again, and so and I applaud it. I think we reached the nadir with that stuff, and but anyway,
that depends on July.
that really does. But here we are. I think we're about 2 hours in. I think we've reached a pretty decent stopping point. Anyway, so I don't really. So rewatch the show. There's so much. Anytime Nick's on, there's just so much you have to wade through. Of knowledge and reach years of experience
guys, if you want to reach out and call me a jerk if I've got it wrong, anything like that, I am totally open. This isn't about me knowing everything or whatever. This is one man's point of view from his little chair, not even a throne, Okay.
Right.
his 50-year-old chair. And that's all it is. I love to have these sort of discussions. If anybody is interested in a critique circle or a group or anything like that, a way that we can talk about marketing in a meaningful way, no charge.
Right.
I'm not interested in charging anybody. I charge RJ for my artwork, and even I did a pinup for Literature Devil. I don't know if you saw that. Did you see that one?
I didn't see it. I heard it. He was getting one from you, so I hadn't seen it yet.
Yeah. But I'm available obviously for artwork, but mostly like for the marketing stuff or any of the story stuff. If you guys, want another person to bounce ideas off of or anything, I'm open. I'm here. That'd be cool.
Well, it's okay, Cruel. You can catch us next time, dude. It's about midnight there anyway. He's in Scotland.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. But anyway, well, thank you for coming on, Nick. It's always
thanks
a pleasure
for having
when you
me,
come on,
and
my friend. And
thanks for enduring my screed.
well, you had a lot on your chest.
I did. I've been doing a lot of observing, and I haven't really said anything. And I just didn't want it to be in the back channels. I wanted to be like, okay, this is guys. Let's try to check ourselves.
Well, this is the rabbit hole, and around here we always follow the white rabbit. So just
there you go.
And that bunny jumped up, and we chased that. We chased it, pressed it down the hole. So, but that's what the channel is about. That's what the call-in show is about. We send a subject up, and we shoot at it for about an hour or two, and we have a good time with it. Awesome. But thank you for coming. This has been the Monday call-in show. Thank you, Nick, for coming, and thank you to the fluffiest chat in all of YouTube. And we will see you next time. Remember, follow the White Rabbit. Like and subscribe if you like the content. See you later. Bye, everybody.